Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have family law attorney David Post, attorney/owner of the Post Law firm, calling in all the way from Glastonbury, Connecticut. Now, David, who has a wealth of experience in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about moving past conflict and toward a healthier future. So, if you are one of the many people in the Glastonbury, Connecticut area who can relate to today's topic, you might want to down tools, maybe even log out of Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you know something? You might even want to grab a notepad and pen and take some notes as we listen in to what David has to share with us today. So, with that said, he's a very busy man. Let's not keep him waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, David.
Well, thanks for having me today, Stuart.
You are so welcome. And like I alluded to before, we know you're very busy and we're so glad to have you on the show. So let's just jump feet first in with our first question. Could you just briefly describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they reach out to you for your help?
Sure. We help families with the full complement of divorce and family law cases here in Connecticut. My practice focuses on helping high net worth professionals who may find themselves going through the divorce process or are involved in the family conflict.
Okay, David, so keeping in mind that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Now, can we both agree on that point, David?
Absolutely. I certainly can't give any legal advice unless I have formed an attorney-client relationship.
Fantastic. So, with that said then, when people come to you for your help then, David, what's the most common misconception they have surrounding the topic of moving past conflict and toward a healthier future?
Sure. Yeah, Stuart, I think the biggest misconception that people have when they visit my office or are contemplating a divorce or are involved in most family disputes is that I think they see it as an opportunity to right the wrongs of the marriage or to focus on the past and focus on the conflict that brought them to the door. Instead, what our focus entails is having the client take a more forward-looking approach to the future and seeing a divorce, even though it is often the most trying time in someone's life, to use it as an opportunity to create the life they envision for themselves in the future.
Okay, David. So based on what you just shared with us, and obviously keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, please share an example of how you've helped someone or how you would go about helping someone who came to you with those challenges, those misconceptions you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able or would be able to gain for them.
Sure. So I think the biggest or the best example of that where clients are focused on the past too much and often comes up in a divorce case is our situations of adultery, which in the past played a much larger role in the divorce process. But in today's age, the focus is more on a fair and equitable division of assets. Obviously, parenting plans and child custody is a foremost concern for all involved, including the courts, and should be for the parties as well. Adultery obviously leads to, I think, the highest of emotions, and is sort of that emotional conflict that might lead to a divorce or can be the cause of the divorce. And while it does play a role in any legal proceeding, the divorce process, and certainly the focus of my practice, is not to dwell on that or to sort of punish someone for that or to right that wrong, if you will, but instead it's I use it as a piece to understanding the client's situation, understanding where they are, but more importantly, using it as something to better understand where they want to go in the future. So to say, okay, this event happened, as terrible or emotional or as angry as it might make someone, it's really an opportunity to move past that problem and say, what do I want better for myself in the future? Let me get away from this conflict. Let me get away from this, this bad situation, and focus on what opportunities are available in the future, whether that involves, obviously working with a divorce attorney, working with a therapist, or even a marriage counselor, a family counselor who might be able to help a couple who are going to, continue a co-parenting situation despite that conflict. So I think that's the example that I think I see the most, and that is often the most difficult to overcome, sort of the most difficult conflict to overcome. But it's a good example because it's one of those things that it shouldn't be the focus. It should just be a piece or a stepping stone toward to where someone wants to go. Here's where they are. They're in the conflict, but where do they want to be? What are the opportunities going forward to move past that?
Something, David, as you were talking, I was just thinking about what we as the general public see quite often in the media. We see high profile divorce cases of celebrities who they're going through litigation, this litigation process, and both of them are trying to get as much from the marriage as possible. The general conception, from my experience in people's minds, is when they think of divorce, there's obviously people who have not been through divorce themselves, but when people think of divorce, they see it as a high conflict process. We're talking today about moving past conflict and toward a healthier future. Is that something of a trend then, David?
I think so. I mean, I think it follows the trend of obviously the mediation process, the collaborative divorce process, and I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think for a number of reasons, the family courts, the litigation process, where look, you can litigate the conflict. It probably comes with the highest costs, both financially and, obviously, an impact to children is always sort of the biggest concern, is that, the children are always watching, they're always listening. So if two parents can get to a mediation or use attorneys in a collaborative way, and essentially stay out of court, it can be the best result for them, for their children, for everyone financially. And I think it allows for everyone to get past all of the noise, all of the conflict, all of the emotion that, while it's there and it needs to be dealt with, it's not always the courts. The divorce legal process itself isn't always the best place to deal with that. I always tell people to use a referral network of counselors who can better help people resolve that conflict outside of court, whether it's sitting down and talking to someone, working it out together, or just going through the legal process in a more amicable way. I think a lot of times clients, the parties involved, and even the attorneys sometimes can sort of take on that fight, take on those emotions, take on that conflict, and it just becomes somewhat of a runaway train. Whereas if everyone can stop and say, here's where we're at, here are the problems we're having, but what is the best way to deal with it? And again, the theme of my practice is always, where are the opportunities? It's more of a forward-looking, a positive take on what is obviously a difficult and sort of bad situation, if you will, but there are always positives. There are always opportunities to look forward and to and overcome those difficulties.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, David. There's some really great insights in your answer, so thank you so much. So, as a reminder, my guest today is family law attorney David Post, and he's here today to speak about a very interesting topic, moving past conflict and toward a healthier future. So with that in mind then, David, and for those people who are thinking about divorce, or maybe they're in divorce or have gone through a divorce and they're out there listening in right now and wanting to know more, please share one common, and I'm sure there are so many, but we are restricted by time, but please share one common but unknown pitfall that they need to avoid regardless of what situation they find themselves in.
Sure. Stewart, I think the biggest pitfall, I suppose, I think the most important consideration is deciding what route to take in a divorce or family law case. And again, that I think the different options are either a more traditional litigated court case, or a mediation session where can be done in various ways, where the two parties come together and it's essentially a negotiation outside of court. And there's obviously the collaborative process. And those three choices can occur or can be applied to either a divorce case, child custody, child support, and some of the other sort of peripheral issues that we see in family conflict cases. That's always sort of step one, is what is the best way to move forward? What is the best way to sort of take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves? And I think people have the misconception sometimes that everything should be a mediation, or this is a case that needs to go to court. I mean, it really depends on first and foremost is our clients, and what are they experiencing, and what are their goals and hopes and sort of dreams for the future, and in taking that and applying it and deciding what's the best course to take here. One of the considerations is also who's on the other side. Who is the spouse? Who is the ex-spouse? Are they acting in a reasonable manner in the past? Are they acting in a reasonable manner as the process evolves? And then deciding what's the best route to take.
David, you're giving such great insights today. You've got me curious. Without going into your background, how many years have you been practicing as a family law attorney?
Sure. I've been practicing in Connecticut for almost 15 years, and my background is in litigation. So I was handling high-value, complex litigation cases, and just last year in 2016, I opened up my own practice, and it was at that time that I've really expanded and niched down into the divorce and family practice.
Okay, so in all the years of being a family law attorney, what's most important to you about helping your clients to move past conflict and toward a healthier future?
Well, I look at it like this, is that within the last 5 to 10 years, I started a family of my own, and I think that I personally value that above almost anything else in my life, including my profession. And I think that my practice allows me to help families in Connecticut who are obviously involved in conflict or difficult situations, and apply, sort of that same forward-looking, positive outlook that, quite frankly, I use in my own life, and try to impress that upon people who oftentimes I find at their lowest points, but help them to realize that that there are still opportunities available to them, and that there is, a healthier future past whatever conflict they might be involved in.
So it gives you a sense of satisfaction or fulfillment then while helping your clients to achieve their objectives.
Absolutely.
Right. So let's just continue speaking a little bit about yourself then, David. Just spend a brief moment telling us a little bit about your background. You alluded to it a little bit before, but share some information about your background, especially your formal education and your experience as it relates to the topic of family law.
Sure, absolutely, Stewart. I'm a graduate of the University of Connecticut and went on to attend Western New England University School of Law and had a great experience there. And it was after that I worked at a firm in Hartford, Connecticut, a defense litigation firm, where I was involved in a lot of high-value, complex medical malpractice defense cases, insurance defense cases, things like that. While I was at that firm and was lucky enough to join the partnership there, I got married, had a family of my own, and eventually sort of struck out on my own, opened up my own firm, and it was then that I have really focused on the family and divorce cases. I've expanded my practice in that area, which quite frankly just allows me to work with individuals and families in the community and to hopefully make a difference in people's lives versus what sometimes could feel like just saving a few bucks for an insurance company or focusing on the bottom line, the financials of a sort of catastrophic injury case.
So, David, when you think about the kinds of people who come to you for your help and they're wanting to know more, they're wanting to dig a little bit deeper into the topic of moving past conflict and toward a healthier future, what final thoughts would you like to share with them before we finish up with our last question for today?
Sure. I always tell people, but even before they come in the office or when they'll first inquire of the firm, is that preparation is the key, and that applies to both my practice as the attorney, but more importantly, I think it applies to the clients themselves. And by preparation, it does include sort of gathering financial documents and, sometimes getting the financial house in order, things like that. But more importantly, I think that preparation involves the clients determining, number one, where are they today? What is it that brought them here? What are the conflicts? What are the issues in their lives that they need help with, that need to be addressed? And then the biggest part of the preparation is where do they want to see themselves going forward? And what are the opportunities that they'd like to take advantage of, despite the difficulties that they're going through? And those can be issues of personal health. That can be financial health. It can be, something where, they're involved in an abusive or a troubling relationship, and what are the things they want to see for themselves, or again, most importantly, in all these cases, what do they want to see for their children going forward, and what is that healthier future that where they want to see themselves.
Okay, David, so if someone feels they want to know more about moving past conflict and toward a healthier future, what's the easiest way for them to connect with you?
Sure, Stuart. The easiest way for people to connect is to call the office at 860-657-1426. They can also learn more about the firm at www.postlawct.com.
Okay, so just give me a brief overview of what would happen when somebody calls the office.
Sure. Anyone who calls the office will be invited to come in for an initial consultation, and what that allows is for us to learn about the client, learn about the situation that they're involved in, and to tell them about ourselves and how we might be able to help them. That initial consultation can then result in retaining the firm, so we can form that attorney-client relationship. And from there, what we'll do is undertake a more in-depth analysis and put together an action plan going forward. And that action plan will involve what we discussed earlier, sort of deciding what is the best route to take. What are the, sort of personal, financial, professional goals that the client wants to see for themselves. And then it's our job to work with them and, find the opportunities that are available toward achieving those goals.
Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, David. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So thank you.
Thank you, Stewart. I appreciate the time.
You're so welcome, David. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you, the listener. Thank you for joining us on this insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading family law attorneys in Glastonbury, Connecticut today. Again, his name is David Post. Make sure you do check him out. Give him a call. He shared his phone number. Drop him an email, whatever you do. I'm sure that after listening to David today, you're going to be in a great place to get started. So that's it for today, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading family law professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care. Have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.